everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is Kendra, certified life and relationship coach. And guys, today I'm just here to jump on really quick. I'm gonna just be talking about a few things about celibacy today. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for your support. And this is a very touchy topic. It is a very sensitive topic, and I want to be sensitive about it. I definitely am currently myself walking this journey of celibacy, and I just want to share some truths. And my job is always to bring awareness and to empower. It's not to belittle or demean anyone for anything. I'm just trying to add value to your life. And if you do experience some of these things, I pray that you will come into the knowledge of just understanding what it means to be celibate. I think everybody knows what it really means to be celibate. And my job here is to just always, I want to dethrone, the enemy off of people's lives as best as I can. That's my job. And that's what I feel like, I was put here to do, and just continue to do what God has called me to do. And I felt always in my life like I could never grasp a hold of this. I started at a very early age being sexually active, and I just always felt like I wanted to experience again that pureness that I never got to experience. And through my adult life, it would just continue to always be like on the cusp of me, and I would try it and I would never be successful at it. And I just want to be honest and transparent in this video as much as possible. And this is a topic some can or can't relate to, but I always ask God to help me challenge myself in this area, because I wanted to know what it was like. I wanted to speak on it. I wanted to be able to help somebody through it, because it's not a topic often talked about. I felt like, I always felt like something had the upper hand over me because I was sexually active in like practically every relationship that I was in. There were like maybe on a hand, probably two guys that I would say that were very, religious, or they never even tried to attempt to have sex with me. But not to say that it was a whole lot of experiences that ended up in sex, but most guys that I would have a friendship with or something in that ballpark, it always seems to come down to the guy wanted to have sex, and whether or not I did it or not, that is just something that I've always wanted to struggle and fight with. And I've come now into as where I'm at in my life. I've been married and going through my healing of that. Definitely I've been able to challenge myself and remain celibate, and that is my goal before I get married. Again, if it happens and if it doesn't, I'm okay with that, because I know that I ask God for that strength, for that wisdom to be able to help someone else. And I want to know what that journey was like for myself, to be able to walk it, because it was always just on my heart. And I do believe that it's God's way of showing me that this is something that He had for me, and there was provision for it. So it has been a road that is possible. It's able, you're able to do it. And this is not going to be a long video, so this is just quickly a few points that I just want to share about celibacy. Some truths that I have that I want to share. So first, I'm going to be using my notes, because I realize I'm way more effective if I use my notes. And these are just some ideas that I sit with myself and journal about, and I pray that you will have your journals and take notes, and really just utilize some of the information that I'm going to be giving you and sharing with you through my experience and through my wisdom on this topic. and share it with a friend, hopefully, and you guys can definitely use it in your life, okay? But I definitely am going to start here on the topic about just knowing God determines your value. Um, and I really strongly feel that sex crowds your emotions. Um, in terms of being aware of what sex does biologically um, and physiologically to our bodies. This is just some things that, I'm again not a doctor, I don't diagnose. I talked about this before on my channel, but I just wanted to bring to the awareness that we have to be aware of the biological and chemical aspects, and experience of sex. And again, these are just things that I have noticed is always that struggle, it seems like, between my values and morals and then my physical self. It was always like a struggle to kind of fight something biologically and something, not just physical, but it was just like there was always this war within me to try to understand what is actually happening during my emotions, and I just felt always like sex has crowded my emotions. And I do believe it's because of all of the hormones, oxytocin and vasopressin. Like, these are actual things that make it really extremely difficult for a woman and for anybody, for a person to be able to withstand against, if you're trying morally to withstand against sex and you're trying to live a life of celibacy or abstinence. It is a very difficult journey for some women. And I just feel like a lot of women or a lot of men and a lot of, just young people, older maybe, I don't know, people struggle, and I know it. And it's just like, man, it's so important for us to not sometimes fall into that trap of that physical urge and that physical desire to want sex, because oftentimes it's a very fine line in it, violating and crossing the line of our moral standards that God has in place for us. So there is this in between, I feel, that God has given me in order to kind of bridge that gap into understanding where I needed Him to meet me in that area. And right there in that area between my physical biological response to sex or wanting to have sex, there was this moral code, this sense of value that I wanted to fulfill. And I wanted God to fulfill that value, and eventually He did. Once I definitely surrendered it, I had to, I believe, exercise and understand my level of self-control within the whole equation. And I just had to admit to myself, like, wait, maybe I cannot control myself and I'm not understanding it. And it is a biological fight at times, because some people have very high hormones when it comes to that, and just understanding your biological makeup. Over time, I've started to understand that diet plays a big role in me and how I'm managing all of my hormones and that adrenaline buildup, and being able to exercise and eating right and balancing those hormones within myself to be able to withstand those urges, because they are natural. And it's nothing wrong with wanting to have sex, but when it starts to violate your moral compass, when it starts to get in the way of your emotions, and you're crowded, and that is a very sacred thing, and I believe that there is a space where God wants to meet you and meet me And to be able to bridge that gap for us, to be able to say, no, I don't have to give into that temptation, and no, I don't have to allow myself to feel that I'm trying to work hard for some title of wife, or work hard for some title of girlfriend, or work hard for some title of just fitting into culture. There is a remedy for that. There is a solution for that. And with knowing yourself, you have to be sensitive to yourself, your hormones in your body, and understanding your chemical makeup and what you need for you individually, so you can be able to meet God where he's trying to meet you. Because I've realized that with me, he was waiting this entire time for me, and at times I would just chuck it up and say, there's no way I can possibly be celibate. There is no way I can possibly do this, because it is extremely hard. Because I'm a girl, as you see, I'm not a small girl. I'm not a petite little girl. So I've learned my dynamic. I've learned my hormones. I've learned how I'm made up. And I realized that I have to exert a certain amount of energy per day, per hour, per minute, down to everything, down to my diet. I have to feed myself so many different exercises before I can actually feel a sense of balance within my physical body, so that I can be able to meet my morals and goals of not having sex. And it is a real serious, thing here, because, you can't serve two masters. And that's one thing. Like, if you're struggling morally with sex and you're trying to serve your physical body and your flesh, you cannot serve God. So, but there has to be a understanding also within that dynamic of understanding yourself, that I'm not going to ignore myself. I'm not saying to ignore yourself and to withhold things, pleasurable things from yourself. Sometimes the enemy can make us feel like we're withholding something from ourselves, but what you're really doing is you're serving yourself by not giving into something that will violate your moral code at the end of the day. It is a disservice to you to not get to know yourself and to not understand yourself, and what does it take for you to not serve two masters. Because there is provision when God tells you to do something. There is already sort of like an account with your name on it, and it's saying, here, I've set something for you. God has something provision for you to be able to withstand any temptation. Because if he's telling us, like in Romans, that this is his will for us, I believe it's Romans 8, don't quote me, it might be Romans 1, but I know it's in Romans, about our bodies and sacrificing them to the Lord because they're holy. And I'm just like, so Lord, you expect for me to be in this body and sacrifice it. This is my reasonable sacrifice to God. And when you have this moral code there, but then you have this flesh here saying, I want this physical touch, or I need this exertion. Sometimes through sex, some people find exertion, some people find all kinds of things with sex, and it can become a big addiction for some people, because I believe being so hormonally balance, sex does balance. It's a good thing, but when you have a moral factor playing a part, and it's a very sacred thing to God, and it's a very sacred thing, I do believe your moral code overrides. You can override that physical exertion that you're needing. You can override that sense of, I need to get this out of me. I need to get this off of me. I need to get out of this feeling. You're going to try to escape into sex where it violates your moral code. And I don't believe that God wants you stuck there. And I really don't. And from my experience, he doesn't want you stuck there. So I pray that you can find your in between and just begin to hear your body and what it wants and listen to it and really just get in tune with it, because I believe your morals should overweigh your physical desires. And that's just been my experience with being celibate. There have been times where I felt like it is such a hard journey, but no way can I allow my quote flesh man, my physical body, to override my moral code. My moral code tells me that I have a reasonable duty, a reasonable sacrifice unto God, and I cannot break that on behalf of no feeling, no emotion. Your moral code cannot be violated, and especially not for the sake of serving a relationship, and especially it not being your husband. And again, that by all means has provision for you to not serve that nature, and there is a part of you that you need to dig deep into and uncover and recognize where the deficit between your physical nature and your spiritual nature is, because there is something going on there, and you need to really ask God to reveal to you and show you, why you feel the need that your physical self can outweigh your spiritual self, because you need to have self-control. God tells us to exercise self-control. He's given us abilities supernaturally if you called on him, if you fast, if you pray, if you're doing the spiritual disciplines, if you're abstaining, if you're resisting the temptations. These things are possible, and as the days go by, it does get easier when you concentrate and you focus on God's word, when you're feeding yourself positive good things and you're not feeding yourself a bunch of lustful things. It's just like weight in a gym, and I heard a really good analogy of this, fighting lust. It's just like when you go to the gym and you're working out, you're gonna move that muscle, you're gonna put weight on you, and it's going to resist. Your muscle is going to resist, and that's how it builds. Your muscle and that weight is going to resist that weight. So, and eventually that muscle just builds up and gets bigger and stronger and stronger. So same when you're lusting, or when you're in temptation, or you're having a flare up of this bodily normal reaction. You have, the more you resist that temptation, which is that weight, you feel it, you can sense it. It's a real sense. And once you begin to feel that pressure, however much it builds up, because some people's build up it feels intolerable, like you can't take it. But the more you build that muscle, the stronger that muscle gets, and then you can defeat every bit of temptation that comes your way to try to tell you, I cannot do this. If you're struggling with lust, yes, you can do this, because God does not require you to serve two masters. Your physical body does not have authority over your spiritual body, and I'm here to prove it, and I'm here to tell you it is so possible, because I used to think it was completely impossible to live a celibate life, and that self-control it has in my life produced so many fruits in so many other areas that I have seen the glory of God in my life like never before. And I've seen so much growth in my life because I've been able to resist so many other temptations that come, because my spirit has grown. I've reached a capacity within myself that is beyond my understanding. And it's just like, why would I not continue to feed that moral code? Why would I continue to not resist the temptation of a physical body when I've seen so many other benefits in my life spiritually? So I just urge you today to please consider serving the master of your spirit. The master of your spirit is God. His spirit is there. That spirit of him he's going to help you push through it and get through it. And I mean, it brings so much awareness, and just being celibate and being abstinent, it brings so much clarity and focus to what it is that you're trying to get to. And I believe that it's a way that most people won't go, but it is a way that if you feel this pulling on your heart, then know that there is provision there. There is something for you there. It restores so much purity to your life. And over time, if you've been trying to seek answers to why you are trying to live this pure life, and you just realize the answer should be because it satisfies my morals, it satisfying my values. There's a sense of wholeness and completion with that. And we need that in this day and time. We need morals, we need values, you need restoration, you need purity. Who wants to walk in a dirty house? Like, when you come at home, you want to feel clean. You want to feel there's no trash here. And with sex crowding our emotions, sometimes you don't know, especially spiritually, what you're opening yourself up to. And this being your body, this being your house, this being where the Spirit of God lives, this is our holy, acceptable duty unto Him. He wants to come in and sit with you. He wants to be with you. He wants to be able to have a place where he can feel a sense of cleanliness. He doesn't want to come in a crowded area with all kinds of yuck and guck and, all kinds of spirits and confusion and chaos within you. And that's what sex does. It crowds your emotion. You don't have an organized thought process. You're trying to chase behind a person or a thing or a feeling of love and belonging, and it's just hopeless, when you're having sex and you can't get to a level of communication with the person that you're trying to maybe get to, or a level of satisfaction that you're trying to get to, and you're trying to fill these voids, all that you have, and you're trying to use sex, but really biologically it's probably releasing you for about good 5-10 minutes, and then you're going to go right back to feeling that need of, I need to belong, I need to feel a sense of moral, a sense of value, and it's stripping that away. And it's not my job here to condemn or bring you down, because I've struggled with this before, and as long as we live, we'll struggle with some different things that we'll need our self-control to take over, and to be able to follow those morals and follow those codes of being able to exercise self-control. But if you've not put anything in the bank of self-control, how will you be able to use that self-control later when you are trying to be in a healthy a sacred covenant relationship like marriage? You're going to need to exercise that self-control. That's why some people think that when they get married, they'll all of a sudden stop lusting or stop the temptation. But no, you have not built up that muscle to stop that temptation. And just like when you're at the gym, you have to keep building that muscle up so that you can withstand the lust and you can withstand the temptations. Because when you're dating and you're having sex, and imagine you're having sex with someone who is lacking communication skills, but you're having sex, you might not notice that, from having sex. You might not notice it because you're feeling like the sex is replacing something, and it's not. They really still have a lack of communication skill. And just because you get married, it doesn't change that they will still lack the communication skills, because they use sex as a band-aid from just wanting a biological response. They're using sex as a band-aid, or they're using sex as an outlet, but they've not still perfected that skill. That's the dangers of the sex, and not being able to identify, especially when you're dating. You need to be able to point out these red flags, or point out if this person lacks communication, if they're lacking empathy. But sex is a crowder of your emotions. You can't even see sometimes the tree from the forest. And I've always felt like so crowded. Like, I've never understood it, and it crowds your judgment because of all of the hormones and all of the emotions that are running wild, that are released, just biologically from having sex, and you're not seeing these other things that you need to see clear when selecting the spouse that God has for you. You need to be able to see and attack those things that are a possible hindrance later in the relationship, that can bring forth the kind of relationship that is actually fulfilling, the kind of relationship that is actually gonna last and be sustainable, a relationship with communication, a relationship with empathy, compassion, and understanding of your deepest desires, a relationship built on spirituality, a relationship built on just trust. But sex is such a deterrent from noticing those things, that at times you'll be wrapped up in a world of confusion and chaos, and you'll think that you're in love when actually you're just in one big chemical reaction of emotions and confusion and chaos, and you're trying to communicate, you're trying to get empathy from someone, and you're trying to reach for things that they have not given, or and you've not given yourself enough time, you've not given yourself enough patience, enough wisdom to pay attention to your moral code, and you keep existing in that area and it's clouded. You're trying to exist, and that's why I say, even if I had sex before from being married, why I chose celibacy is because I understand the impact that sex has on someone. And I will say, even prior to me getting married to that individual, I wanted to not at times have sex, and it was my moral code. I already had started off violating that moral code because I was having sex before I was married, and I wasn't listening, so I couldn't make clear decisions if this is a spouse for me or not. I was clouded. Oh yeah, big clouded. And there were some signs there that showed me, hey, the communication, hey, the empathy, hey, the theology, hey, our worldview. I never asked any of those questions because me satisfying that biological sense and feeling like, it took care of everything. So it is very important to defeat the, not just enemy, his strategy to destroy your identity. This is getting more into the spiritual side, but just the biological side, it's just, you need to be able to defeat the temptation of your biological needs, of just meeting your biological needs, because you still have a moral compass, a moral standard that needs to be met to build a solid, healthy relationship, to build on a marriage that is going to withstand the test of time. And I understand that. And to me, that is way more important than satisfying my biological sense. So in any other area that I also might need self-control, I can pull from that bank of, I've resisted before. I've resisted these types of temptations. So when I'm married, yes, I can also pull from that bank and be faithful. I can pull from that bank, from my moral bank, and say, I've exercised compassion towards myself. I've exercised empathy towards myself. I've exercised self-respect towards myself. I've exercised compassion towards myself. I've exercised communicating with myself first and understanding myself first. And now I can use that in my relationship. I've given myself that ability to be able to do that. And I expect that and nothing less from a spouse. That clarity, that purity, it's such a richer life. It's such a richer meaning to life. Just following the Lord on that and really seeing the fruits of that is tremendous. The obedience is better than sacrifice. Because, you know, the disorganized thoughts that come from, you know, just partaking in sex and what all it causes. I've been on the other end of that, and it is not fun. It is not fun at all. So, you know, I'm reading here, when you're having sex with someone who lacks the communication skills, the empathy, the compassion, and understanding of your desires, it leaves you disconnected and in fear. You're violating the very essence and foundation of who and what you are. You're created for an intimate relationship. And I'm going to just put this out there. Some men are buyers and some are shoppers. You got to self-correct so you aren't vulnerable to men looking to shop. God determines your value. So you have to believe that God is not a figment of your imagination. He's not a made-up child's plaything. He's not an imaginary friend or ideology. He's not living in a fantasy world. He functions through your daily behaviors and patterns and in your systems. So he's providing direction and giving voice to topics that concern your life. And these are my observations, okay? So I know these to be facts. The parts of him that aren't relatable or explainable or hidden away, justify them just as you would that there are things about your parents, okay, that you don't know. And that that's how you can get over some of those questions that you have. Because in due time, just like, you know, you hide certain things, your parents hide certain things from you they don't want you to know about. They dirt or whatever they got going on. That's what I feel like with the Lord, you know, what I've noticed. And it makes it so much more real to me that, like, he's just there. And he doesn't have to reveal everything to me. Who am I? So you have to remove yourself from feeling obligated to know why he's asking you or what he's asking you to do. You should trust him because he has your best interests. He's been on this planet. He knows the ins and out more than you do. He's been around a lot longer than you. And he knows your makeup and you better than you know it. So when you sacrifice it to him and give it to him, if he's pulling on your heart to do that, then give it to him. And I guarantee he knows what to do with it better than you do. So it's not my job to try to make anyone feel bad. I can only tell you what works for me, what has benefited me, and what continues to show itself of value to me. I've dodged a lot of bullets. I continue to. I know a lot of pastors and different preachers are starting to talk a little bit more about sex, and that's a good thing because a lot of people need exposure. I know some pastors that I listen to who have immensely brought to light about sex and, you know, just different topics about it and what it actually does to a man when he's having sex with you. Oh God, Tony Gaskins talks about it. Another one, Jerry Flowers, he talks about it. I found a new pastor here, and I think he's what's his name? Isaac. His Instagram is at I am IssacCurry. Maybe I'll put that in the description box. But he had a bomb message. And I had never felt so good about listening to a message before this than the other day when he dropped these gems. I was like, yo, he dropped some serious weight on me about choosing the right spouse. And I was just like, wow, that was amazing. So yeah, there's so many resources out there. I'm just one, but there are others. RC Blake's, he's another one. He talks about being a queen and expressing what your worth is. And I think just physiologically, we have needs as humans, but there is a moral code that I believe outweighs our physiology. And just exercising our authority and our self-control, we will begin to live a life more abundantly and have marriages more abundantly, have healthy relationships more abundantly. And if we steer clear from these strategies of our enemy to devalue us, to belittle us, to degrade us, I believe we can get somewhere as a people. All right, so maybe you guys will continue to want more on this topic. I pray that you got something from this video. I'm going to go ahead and end it here because it's at about 36 minutes long. I'm working on trying to talk less. So God bless you. God loves you. May he keep you. And I hope that you can catch me again on here. Thank you guys. Love you. Bye.